Hey, Los Angeles is in shambles right now, and I fear for my own safety. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite films. And today I'm going to be doing a film review of the new Jia Zhangke film Caught by the Tides, or in Mandarin Chinese, 风流一代. So, I am taking a break from reviewing films released in Cannes Film Festival this year to review a film that came out in Cannes Film Festival last year. It's really weird because I didn't attend Cannes last year, and some of the films from Cannes last year finally came out like around now, and at the same time, I recently came back from this year's Cannes. So it's like 2 years Cannes Film Festivals are coinciding for me at the same time. So it's kind of weird. But, anyways, Caught by the Tides is a film released a whole year ago, premiered in France in Cannes, and I'm finally watching it. I watched it alone at a theater I've never been to yesterday called Los Feliz. It's pretty fantastic. Very interesting theater. The theater is tilted upwards. So when I watch the film, I'm like looking up, and somehow it's kind of cool. It's like you're like sleeping, but you're also looking up. It's actually a very interesting feeling. But anyways, Jia Zhangke, one of the most important and interesting voices coming out of China, and definitely a maestro when it comes to the Chinese art house filmmaking. I mean, when it comes to Chinese art house filmmakers, I think Jia Zhangke is the filmmaker. I mean, come on, he's Jia Zhangke. And so far, I've only seen two films from him. I saw Still Life, which came out in the late 2000s, and it is a beautiful, very, very nuanced, restrained, but also very poetic and just interesting film that highlights two very different parts of China: modernization, urbanization. And then I also watched A Touch of Sin a few months ago, which is four different stories about violence and murder under the backdrop of modern China. So obviously, Jia Zhangke is a filmmaker who is obsessed with talking about the modernization of China. And with his new film, Caught by the Tides, we are once again dealing with a film about modernization. It's about change. It's about the change in technology, change in infrastructure, boats, trains, bridges, dams. Also, it's about the culture. It's an ethnography of modern China. It's about the song and dance, the karaoke bars, the adverts, the video games, the computers, the technology. It's about big cities, it's about small villages, it's about supermarkets, it's about just places, really, different places. So, yeah, you know those silly Instagram reels of like a candy store owner in rural northern Chinese villages making instant noodles in a small tin box and then slurping the noodles and jumping up and down? Um,
老板，这要片拉片。这孩子拉片自己拿。
those reels and this film basically evoke the same thing, but I think this film evokes that 10 times more. Also, I know it's a very specific example, but when I was young, I remember having this very cheap plastic toy. You know, the kind of toy that is mass produced in southern Chinese sweatshops. When you press a button, it spins around, emits red and green lights, and blasts an electro song through its shitty speakers. You know those toys? Yeah, this film basically captures that. This is the most inaccessible and dense film I've seen from him. I mean, I've only seen two other films from him, but it is very inaccessible. It is not for the faint of hearts. But I personally really enjoyed it. I'm just thinking to myself, had I seen this in Cannes Film Festival, I probably would have fallen asleep. And I probably would be seeing it from like a very far distance. And I'm just, for some reason, I just feel really blessed that I'm able to see this film at a close distance while being 100% awake, because I'm able to observe every nook and cranny in the film and completely just soak myself in the film. Now, this film repurposes a lot of old footage from 2001 and a little bit later in 2006, I believe. So, filming this film literally took 2 decades for Jajanka, and I really love the ambition of making this film, but also I love movies that are about a long period of time, and it actually took a long period of time to film, like Linklater's Boyhood, for example. Act 1 of the film is the most non narrative part of the film. Again, Jajanka uses a lot of random old footage. There are some clips that have no rhyme or reason of being there other than just for vibes or for reflecting the Chinese culture of the time, of the era. And sometimes it feels like a documentary. So when I watched Act 1 of this film, it reminds me of Koyani's Katsi, but for modern China. There's a lot of singing and dancing, karaoke bars, rusty bridges, boats, trains, random footage of streets. There's a scene, it's very brief, and it's just camcorder footage of the streets. And it's a long take, and then we hear the song Kill the Man from Shijiazhuang by the Chinese rock band Omnipotent Youth Society. First of all, oh my god. When I watched Still Life 2 years ago, I immediately thought about this song. And now Jajanka has used this song in a scene. And I'm just like, damn, that just hits right on the mark. By the way, great song. Probably the greatest Chinese song ever. And I went to the band's concert last year in LA, and they're fantastic. But yeah, even though it's very dense, it's still enjoyable as an experimental piece. In many ways, Jiajiangke uses sound to create a soundscape to capture modern China through its PSAs and songs and sounds of construction. There's also a lot of format changes. There's camcorder footage. Act 2 is entirely on film. Act 3 is mostly digital, and then you have these weird like phone shots. You have a shot where it's like a fish eye, and then it zooms in and it zooms out, and it's like, wow, Jajanka is really utilizing all sorts of media formats here. Now, Act 2 of the film is basically an extension of Still Life, which cannot go wrong. I mean, sure, Still Life in and of itself is a better film than the part of this film, but it's still really good. You see Zhao Tao being scared, laughing, having fun, falling asleep in this rural Chinese village, and you're just wondering how the story will unravel. It's just really nice. And then we enter Act 3, which is, in my opinion, the best part of the entire film. Because now we are in the year 2022. We are in the post-COVID world where everyone are wearing masks, spraying alcohol everywhere, doing these nucleic acid tests. And Jajanka tackles this with so much interest because, aside from this, he also deals with the economic development in the southern parts of China, the Great Bay Area, aka Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Zhuhai, right north of Hong Kong. So, I'm not completely new to this phrase that is the development of the Great Bay Area. In Cantonese is 大湾区发展, which is a cursed phrase. I don't want to hear it ever again. And there's also a little humor where we have a TikTok Douyin influencer. And so this new era of China, in the way it's juxtaposing sort of 2000s China through its technology and economy, is just so fascinating, so specific and so fascinating. But I think the most provocative moment in the entire film is when Zhao Tao's most meaningful conversation is with a robot. Throughout the entire film, Zhao Tao's character is mute. By the way, Zhao Tao is the main actress of the film, also the wife of Jia Zhangke. She is mute in this film. She doesn't say anything. And I think The reason behind that is because by taking away dialogue, Jia Zhangke puts more emphasis on the imagery, and that's more important. But I also think that the most meaningful conversation in the entire film is with a robot. There's irony in that, there's also sadness, it's alienating, and then we have the ending of the film, and it's just fantastic. We have Zhao Tao reuniting with an old lover, but instead of saying anything, she just runs off with a crowd of runners, of joggers. And it's just like, people change, the world change, cities change, but you just have to keep moving on. You just have to keep running. So, yeah, and then the whole film ends with song lyrics. In fact, the whole film begins and ends with song lyrics. I think Jia Zhangke really adheres to modern pop culture by trying to understand China through song lyrics. So yeah, overall, this is very fascinating and very formally and narratively experimental, yet very understanding, very curious, very observant, very interesting subgenre of slow cinema. I also have to point out that Jia Zhangke served as a member of the National People's Congress, which means he worked for the government, which is very sus. I do not like that at all. But for him to use the song Kill That Man from Shijiazhuang, which is a song being censored by the Chinese government, and a song lyrically about the broken economy under the Chinese government, I find it strange. So, anyways, very interesting film. Very interesting film, and I would love to rewatch it. And I had a great time watching it for some reason. I'm giving Caught by the Tide a strong 8 out of 10. So, have you watched Caught by the Tides? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.